I'm Bob Jackson, a crew leader for the Texas Forest Service. And this is my home, deep in the East Texas Piney Woods. Living on a farm, there are early morning chores to be done before I start my work as a firefighter. Turkeys to be fed, cows to be milked and taken care of. Old Spot has to have a little fresh milk to start his day. Of course, Matilda is right there to stake out her claim to that warm, fresh milk. Well, with the farm chores done, it's time to start to work. First thing to do is to report to headquarters that I'm on my way to the tower, and I'm available for call. On the way to the tower, I want to stop and check the area down near the fishing hole. I had several fires down that way the past few weeks that did quite a bit of damage. I sure want folks to be extra careful with their campfires. There's Bruce and his family with some friends. Bruce has a nice catfish to show me, but he still complains about the big one that got away with his hook, line, and several sinkers. Of course, I admire his catch and sympathize with him for the big one he lost. Then I tell them that I'm checking on campfires in the area so that we don't have a wildfire out of control. They show me how they took care of their fire, and a good job they did, too. Preventing fires by checking with hunters and fishermen is only part of my job. Firefighting is another important phase. So I must be off to the tower. First, though, I must pick up my crewman helper, John. He's the one who helps me with the forest fires. He's waiting for me at the country store. The Jeep hardly stops rolling, but in, and we're on our way to the lookout tower. Here is my tower, right in the heart of the Piney Woods. In a way, it's a second home to me, for I spend lots of hours here. From its commanding height, I can look out over the vast expanse of my beloved Piney Woods and keep careful watch that nothing harms them. I asked John to check the fire danger. As you can see, the fire danger station looks like a weather station. In reality, while John's checking the fire danger, I climb the tower. It's over 100 feet in the air, and it takes a long time to get to the top. But I always make it after stopping to puff a few times on the way. Here is an anemometer, an instrument to check the speed of the wind. This information, together with the amount of fuel moisture in the special moisture sticks, and with other factors, allows us to determine a fire danger classification. Down on the ground, John lets me know the danger reading by holding up 3 fingers. That means a Class 3 day, one on which fires will burn rapidly once they get started. It's a warning to be on the alert and to look closely for smoke that may mean trouble. First, though, I must call Willie, the dispatcher, and advise him of the danger. He'll also tell me of the danger classes in other areas as received from other crew leaders. And that way I know the conditions and danger ratings throughout the area covered by my district. Situated in the district headquarters, it's the dispatcher's job to keep a record of all activities of crew leaders. From here, tree farmers are called and warned of the danger of fire on a day like today. Forest fires have never been known to be respecters of crew leaders, so I keep a sharp lookout to see that one doesn't pop up without being detected. One could be very serious on a day like this. So far, it looks like a mighty quiet and peaceful day, not a smoke in sight, and it might stay that way if people are careful. I keep my fingers crossed as I fill in my log, an essential part of my protection work. In the afternoon, I spot what I had been fearing. John and I aren't so lucky, for someone has been careless with fire. Immediate action is needed to bring it under control before it spreads to a large area. I take a reading on the Alliday, get on the radio. From my voice, he knows something is pretty hot. After taking my Alliday reading on the fire, Willie calls 2 other towers to get their cross-checks on the fire's location. Plotting these cross-checks on a map, he now knows exactly where the fire is located and dispatches John and me to this exact point to suppress the fire. By now, the fire had got pretty big. So one more trip, and off we go to the fire. After we leave the tower, Willie telephones Amos Jones, a tree farmer living near the area, and tells him that we need some help to control the fire. Amos and his son leave home in a rush, grabbing a flap and a rake, which they always keep right-handed just for such emergencies, then pile into their car and start off to help us. These men are both farmers. They don't get any money for helping me. They do it solely to keep the fires out of the piney woods. There's a lot of other farmers just like them, too. While on my way to the fire, Willie calls me by radio to let me know that help is on the way. Before this help arrives, John and I scout the fire and start to figure how we can bring it under control. We call this our plan of attack, and it's very important in our work. As we finish our planning, Amos and his son arrive, and so we put our heads together. I hurriedly go over the situation, explaining what action we must take to get the fire under control. We use a rough sketch on the ground to make it clear to everyone just what we're to do. Well, even a little fire kills little trees, and we're too late to save many small seedlings like this. Trees that would have produced timber for tomorrow. Most people don't see the damage to these little fellows, and it's too bad they don't, for these small seedlings are the big trees of our future forests. We have to work fast to halt the fire, so I let the plow down and start plowing a fire line around the outside of the fire. The plow sure does take a big mouthful when it starts chewing. Well, we keep on with our plowing while the fire gets hotter and hotter. We know that once we get all the way around it, we'll have it pretty well whipped. Willie, the dispatcher, has called out other farmers, and by now they've all arrived and are working hard at their assigned jobs. Joe Williams is pretty busy with a back pump and doing good work. Tom Allen is flapping away as hard as he can, but the fire's too hot to keep him from getting pretty badly singed. It's hot all right for Tom, but it isn't exactly cool in this Jeep. One thing about using Jeeps for this kind of work, though, is that it protects the driver a lot from the heat of the fire. Besides, the Jeep pretty well gets us through wherever we have to go. The men using hand tools are working hard, but this method is not as effective as plowing with a Jeep. It's fires like this that make your heart sick. And from the Forest Service plane overhead that's been spotting the fire and keeping constant radio contact with us, it makes you even sicker. So far in fighting this fire, we've been flapping it out where we could, using back pumps wherever they could be used effectively, and plowing fire lines to keep it from spreading. Now we start fighting fire with fire and begin backfiring. John follows with a torch close behind the plow, burning a strip between our fire line and the main fire to stop it. This backfire must be controlled. So Amos and his son follow John, flapping out the fire and raking burning brush out of the plowed line back toward the fire. This is very necessary in order to make sure that the fire doesn't jump the line. Finally, we have the fire completely surrounded by the line and under control at last, so most of our helpers go home. We sure appreciate their help, for firefighting is a dirty, back-breaking job. John and I still have plenty of work to do. We have to mop up the area to make sure the fire doesn't escape. My job is to make dead certain that it's safe. Flames on burning tree trunks and stumps are suppressed with dirt because it's easier to use than water from a back pump. It's just as effective, too. At last, I can call Willie and let him know the fire is out, dead out. John and I decide to find out, if possible, what started the fire. John spots the evidence first, and there's no doubt in our minds that an innocent little campfire was responsible for this wild and destructive forest fire that burned and destroyed many acres of valuable timberland. John and I wonder how anyone can be so careless with so dangerous a thing as fire. By now it's getting late, so after raising the plow and anchoring it tight, we climb into the Jeep and head for home. We put out the fire this time, but we wonder how long it will be before another careless camper makes it necessary to do it all over again. On the way home, we pass this familiar sign, another reminder for motorists to help protect the forests of Texas. As we stop at the store to let John out, he calls my attention to one of the Smokey Bear posters he'd put up this morning. Crush it, break it, drown it. Use it, but remember, only you can prevent forest fires. If people only follow its simple rules, many destructive fires could be avoided. If more people could only see the beauty and wealth of the Pineywoods, they'd be more careful with their campfires and smoking materials and wouldn't destroy all this beauty and wealth by carelessness. That's about the end of my day as a firefighter. After supper, I'll do the farm chores and listen to the news on the radio before I go to bed. They call me a guardian of our East Texas piney woods. I guess that's true, all right, but I sure do need your help to make my guardianship a success. Let's all follow Smokey Bear's instructions. Break your match, use your ashtray, crush out your smokes, and make dead certain that your campfires are properly extinguished. Help keep Texas green and prosperous.